Hello, everybody. Good evening. Um, Happy for you all to join me. I know most of you are here as part of an initiative to get more points for your team for the Open. So thank you guys for coming. For anybody else who's just popping on, they saw me coming live. They know that I talk about health, fitness, nutrition, all that stuff. Feel free. We're talking about fueling for performance today. But in general, most people will be on here to get points for their team. They're going to listen to this talk where we're going to discuss how to properly fuel ourselves to get ready for the Open workouts. Now, for those of you who aren't a part of CrossFit in general, what is the Open? The Open is a competition run by CrossFit headquarters, and it is a way to qualify for the CrossFit Games or the World Championships. You might see them on ESPN. They usually run in August. And the Open is a 3-week competition where on Thursday they announce a workout that everybody who signs up has to complete and enter their score online by Monday. And then you'll be ranked against people across the world, across the nation, across the region, and then you'll, based on how you rank, you'll move into quarterfinals, semifinals, so on to qualify. So most of us are here just to learn how to fuel for those Friday night workouts. And it's going to be a super good talk on how to properly make sure we're ready to go for the best performance on those nights. Although most of us are there just to have fun, just to get a workout in, to hang out with everybody else, it's still good. We still want to feel good when we work out. Before we dive into the material, let's talk about some things that we have going on at CrossFit Generation, which, for those of you who don't know, is the gym that I coach at and the gym that everybody's doing the Open at for us. And so we have our Summer Ready Nutrition Challenge coming up. That's going to be one that we haven't run in a while. It's been a couple of years, I think a year or so, since we've run a challenge. So super excited to bring that back. As part of that, we have some new features. Rather than the physical tracker, the habit tracker that we've been using, the piece of paper where most people come in and say, oh, I lost it, I forgot to bring it in, whatever. We're going to be going through an app to track habits that we've been doing, keeping our times, our scores for benchmark workouts through it. And it'll be a good way to communicate. And we'll have a leaderboard feature so you can see live how your habits and how your consistency is stacking up against everybody else who are participating in the challenge. Also, we're doing it at a different time of year. Usually we do it in the fall. So this time we're doing it in the spring leading up to Memorial Day. So it's perfect timing to build that nice foundation, build that nutrition, and maybe even get that beach bod ready for that Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk a little bit about dates and stuff later in the talk, which will be important. In addition, we have our in-house spring fling competition, male-female pairs. That will be on April 20th. Registration has been emailed out, and hopefully you sign up and do that. Again, that's for CrossFit Generation members only. If you're looking to join the gym, definitely come by. We're about an hour north of Philly, so definitely check us out. See, Chris James is on here. Thanks for popping in, Chris. Not a member of CrossFit Generation, but good friend of mine. He's doing a lot of awesome stuff in real estate. So if you have any interest in that, definitely give him a follow. So now that we kind of got some of the boring stuff out of the way, let's jump into it. If at any point you have any questions or want me to address anything, pop it into the comments, shoot something over, question, anything like that. I'll highlight it, make sure we get it addressed. Chances are if you have the question, somebody else does too. So we can make sure that everybody gets something out of this. In addition, I will be saving, this will stay saved on Facebook. I will upload it to my YouTube channel so you can check that out later. For anybody who's trying to get points for their team, I will send out an email with a survey that asks a couple questions to make sure you're here, listen to it. But that will end the end of the day tomorrow, but you can always come back and watch this recording whenever. All right, so let's dive into some of the information. So the hierarchy of fitness, right? We want to look at things overall before we dive into specific performance. So at the bottom of this pyramid, we have nutrition, right? That is the foundation of everything. And the way this pyramid works is you can kind of skip the levels, but it will limit the growth and how quickly you can grow and how much you achieve at the higher levels if you don't manage and properly build up the foundation from the bottom. So nutrition allows us to perform. It allows us to recover, it allows us to build muscle and develop our nervous system properly, and just helps us feel better overall, right? So if we build that foundation, we'll be able to work more efficiently, get better results in the gym, and recover faster. So, the thing that people say our abs are made in the kitchen, right? You can't outwork a bad diet. You can go to the gym, but if you don't change your diet, chances are you can eat those calories a lot easier and a lot quicker than you would if you were to just focus on cutting back the calories rather than adding in the gym. If we can do both, awesome. But abs are made in the kitchen because that's how you can really control what is coming in. What goes in must go out. So if you're eating less than you're burning, you're going to lose weight. So building that foundation, building those habits are going to be what builds and what allows us to see the most results as we work our way up this pyramid. So once we have the nutrition foundation ready to go, let's talk about metabolic conditioning, metcons, right? That's going to build that lung capacity. That's going to build those heart muscles. It's going to build the muscles in general, allow us to build the capacity to be able to work for a long period of time. Right? Nutrition is the foundation of everything, but when it comes to fitness and building other areas of fitness and working up to the top tier of sport and being proficient at sport, we need to be able to train for a period of time. This is the hard part. This is where it takes time to build up that conditioning, but it's going to be super important to be able to do this, because if we try to jump through this and go into weightlifting without building up that metabolic conditioning, we're going to develop fatigue early and we won't get the most out of weightlifting. So once we develop the metcon, the metabolic conditioning, and are able to maintain exercise and moving for a while, we can start to get more specific. We can go into gymnastics, which isn't what might pop into your head, like the uneven bars and the bounce beam and all that. We're not talking necessarily about that, but gymnastics in the way of how you move your body, your spatial awareness. And this is important because once you learn how to control your body, you will be able to move into the next part, which is our weightlifting and being able to move external objects. Think barbell if you're benching, or a medicine ball if you're doing wall balls, or a kettlebell if you're doing swings. If you don't have the gymnastics, if you can't move just your body, it's going to be really hard to get efficient at moving some external object. Right? So they each build on each other. So from gymnastics, we go into weightlifting. And then once we learn how to control external objects and develop power with those external objects, mainly barbell, we can start tuning in on the overall sport, which is the top of that hierarchy, top of that pyramid. We have all the foundation ready to go that we can start doing general preparedness in addition to specifically getting ready for whatever sport that is. We know how to move our body. We have the metabolic conditioning to be able to move our body for a period of time. And we have the nutrition to be able to recover from the sport that we are doing. In this case, the sport that we're talking about is CrossFit, and it's the Friday night workouts that we have for the next 2 Fridays. All right, we already did last week, so I want to focus on how can we fuel ourselves tomorrow, Friday during the day, and then Friday night and Saturday afterwards. So who is this for, right? This is for anybody who's participating in the open, but really anybody who wants to perform at peak performance. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a specific competition or anything like that. But, in general, when you're working out, it's hard enough as it is. We want to make sure we feel good during that, because if we feel good during it, we'll feel good after it, and we'll want to do it again. So anybody who is looking to perform their best at any event, whether it is CrossFit, whether it is, a triathlon, which I just signed up for one. So that's going to be the first time I've ever done one. So looking forward to that. But again, this is going to be something where I can apply this to that day. And who's this not for? When you're dialing in for performance, you typically would want to have that good foundation, right? We'll talk about what a good foundation has and what you need to do the day before, right? It doesn't vary too much. So you need to have that good foundation down so we can start specifying in on what we want to do to perform at our best. Because if you don't have the good foundation in general, it won't really matter if you change things up for the actual just that day or just that exercise or just that workout or just that event that you're in. So performance, right? I'm sure at some point or another, we've all been through an AMRAP, right? As many rounds as possible, 20-minute long workout or a 2-mile run. And we've gotten halfway through and you're just gassed, right? And for whatever reason, you're exhausted. You just need to start walking if you're running, or you're taking longer breaks between sets, and you just don't feel like you have anything left, even though you're only halfway through the workout. Maybe that's abnormal for you, and maybe it's just a bad day, and maybe it was because of nutrition, or maybe you're not fueling yourself all the time and you feel like that all the time. So notice that if you are hitting that wall during the workout, maybe it is your nutrition, and maybe it is something that you can start addressing and start playing around with. And it might happen if you switch the time of day that you work out. If you've ever noticed, if you're used to being somebody who works out in the morning, we have a lot of people that do the 6 a.m. class consistently at our gym. And the workouts that we're doing on Friday are at 6 p.m. So they're not used to eating the 6 p.m. or eating around the 6 p.m. exercise, a workout. So they either have to change their diet or maybe they don't. And that's why they're not feeling great at night. In addition to your body not being used to moving at night, I know I work out at night. So if I need to start working out in the morning, that's going to be a rough time for my body to get up and get moving on it. So, not being used to the time to work out or changing the time that you have to work out could change or could affect how you perform just because you're not used to eating at certain times or eating those things at certain times, and it affects your performance. So let's talk about the day before. So like I mentioned, we're doing these workouts on Friday night. So the day before would be tomorrow. So now we can start thinking about what do we need to eat for tomorrow. So when we eat, carbs specifically, they get stored in our body as glycogen, and they get stored in both our liver and in our muscle tissues. And when we start working out, the muscle tissues use up those glycogen stores right away. That's what used first. That's what fuels the movement. The liver stores will serve throughout the rest of the body as needed. So when you eat the night before, a lot of times you hear carb loading, and that is the thought process of, let me eat a ton of carbs. That way all my stores are at maximal capacity, and then I can use that tomorrow. Well, that might work in sometimes, but most of the time it's a 1 to 3 day process, and typically needs to be played around as each individual stores different amounts in their blood or in their muscles and in their liver. So it'll take some time to figure out what works best, and typically working with a coach or somebody who's familiar with doing that would give you the most effect from it. So carb loading, eating a ton of pasta like the night before might not necessarily do anything for you, especially when it comes to potentially 24 hours later. When you're sleeping at night, your body's using up some of those stores to help recover. So you might not be as carb loaded, as glycogen stored at max capacity as you might think. So when those stores run out, that's when you hit the wall. So we do want to make sure that we get those ready, but the day before typically just needs to be a normal balanced diet. So when we talk about balanced diet, think the plate method. That's what we talk about a lot when I'm coaching, and it's looking at a plate, just a standard plate. And that plate consists of half of vegetables, and then a quarter of it is protein. So your chicken, your ground turkey, fish. And then the other quarter is those starchy carbs, your sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, and so those whole grain good carbs. And then you'll have a little bit of fats, right? If you're having fish, that's protein and fat, but that can be oils that you use to cook with, or even some side of peanuts or cashews or anything like that. So we want to make sure we get those proteins in the meat, and then carbs with those starchy vegetables, and then we get our fats. So as long as you're eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, just normal whole grain, whole good foods, that should be enough, right? Maybe you have some snacks in there. I personally, I eat 4 meals a day, and then I have like a nighttime casein, which is a slow release protein. So I like to eat smaller meals more often throughout the day. But playing around with that, see what works best for you, will be important because you can play with it. I used to eat 3 meals, and I found that no matter how much I ate, I was still hungry like a couple hours later. So I wanted to spread that out a little bit more, eat more often. And it's taken years for me to kind of figure out what works best. I also consistently work out at night, so I know how to time everything. Another thing that you should focus on the night before is to make sure you drink enough water, right? We can get at least 80 ounces of water throughout the day. No alcohol, should go without saying, but you would be surprised. We can avoid alcohol the night before, right? That's going to affect our sleep. If anybody's watched my Wealthy Wellbeing podcast, we talked about sleep this past Sunday. So avoid the alcohol to make sure we get a good night's sleep, and make sure we get at least 7 hours of sleep if possible, right? So just basic fundamentals when it comes to the day before. Good food, good sleep, enough water to fuel ourselves. So now it comes to the day of. So we're going to talk about the open and working out at night, but also give an example for the morning. It's pretty similar. So if at night, during the day, you'll continue what you did the day before and you'll eat just regular meals. So your breakfast, your lunch, we'll follow the plate method, get a good balance of proteins, carbs, fats, and get our vegetables in there. We can fit a snack in there too. Great. Then when it comes to, all right, the workout is at 6 or 6:30, making sure that we do get carbs and protein. We want to avoid fats, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we want to avoid fats as much as possible. And we can get those carbs and proteins 60 to 90 minutes before the workout. And you can play around with whether or not you're going solid foods. So your chicken or rice to get that fuel in there, that proteins and the carbs. Or some people are like, there's no way I can do that. I will feel so weighted down. I'll feel bloated or anything during the workout. If that's the case, focus on more liquid stuff and stay within, that 60 to 90 minute mark before the workout. And again, you'll have to play around with that. But the main thing is, don't try something completely new right before. So some liquids to eat, you can make a smoothie, some applesauce. You could just do a protein powder shake, non-fat yogurt. Liquids are going to be easier to digest. They'll move through your system quicker because they don't have to break down the solid foods. So if you're concerned about having something like chicken and rice 60, 90 minutes before the workout, then go with something liquid just to be safe and keep it smaller than you think. Me personally, I like to have a little bit of Gatorade powder, and I usually have that like 30 minutes before the workout just to help get that sugar ready to go, and it's not super heavy in my stomach. So again, I would not try anything crazy or anything completely different right before. Again, if you're concerned about the food, just do liquids. So notice before I said just proteins and carbs leading up, we want to avoid fats. What happens when you have fats included in there, it'll delay gastric emptying, which will slow the digestion process. So you can't absorb the carbs, which will fuel your workout. It'll give you and replenish those glycogen stores. And you won't be able to absorb the protein, which will help you in the recovery process. So if you have a lot of fat with your protein and your carbs, you won't be able to use the carbs and proteins to be able to fuel that workout. It's kind of defeating the purpose. Not that you won't get anything out of it, but you won't get as much as you possibly could if you have a bunch of fats along with your workout. So fats stay away from your workouts, carbs and protein increase during or right before your workout. So you've gone through the workout. We finished it. We feel great. We've done awesome. Maybe we feel super tired, but we feel happy that we've completed it. I know I will tomorrow when I'm done. So after your workout, I recommend doing a protein shake, specifically whey protein or some kind of vegetarian or vegan option if you need to. The whey protein is great because it's a fast digesting, usually 30 to 45 minutes. It's from drinking it, it's starting to circulate through your system, which is going to be super important when it comes to replenishing the broken down muscles that occurred during the workout. For me, I like to drink a little bit right before, and maybe not during the open workout, but during a regular workout, during a lifting session, I'll drink my whey protein, because that means 30 to 45 minutes later, which will be close to the end of the workout, I'll immediately be getting that stuff absorbed into my body. Now, that being said, I know that stuff can be a little heavy on people's stomachs. So if it's right after you're working out, that's totally fine too. Again, we just want something fast digesting, and especially protein, to help replenish the muscles that we broke down. Also, we want to increase carbs afterwards. So again, limit the fats, but carbs and proteins before and after. They will help fuel us. That will help refuel us. They will help rebuild. I was listening to a podcast, this was actually years ago, but they always called the hour after you're done working out the window of gains, because within that next 1 and 2 hours, your body is ready to go and ready to absorb all of the glycogen and all of the sugars from the carbs that you need from the workout to help replenish. So that's the time, if you're going to have, your donuts or anything like that, that's the time to have it, because your body's ready to use that insulin and clear out the sugar, the glycogen stores from the blood, and get it into those cells. Not that I'm saying eat a bunch of donuts afterwards, but that's the time to do it, because your body's ready to take that in. So that's right after, right? Within 1 or 2 hours, proteins and carbs. And then that'll be typically liquid, just to get that right through the system immediately. And then you can have that regular meal, maybe a few hours later. Last week we did pizza, which again, not the best nutrition choice in general, but your body's ready to absorb a lot of that stuff. All right. And then the days after, we can just go back to eating a regular, normal, balanced diet. Again, that plate method. So that's the before, the during, and the after on how to properly fuel our bodies for the open workout or any workout in general, any competition that you're doing. That's just one singular workout. Could talk about another time, right? We have that competition, our in-house competition coming up in a month or so, multiple workouts through the day, and how to balance that, how to get full meals between all of those workouts and fuel for that. But we won't touch on that. So in closing, I hope everybody found this helpful. And just a reminder, we have our Summer Ready Nutrition Challenge that's coming up April 29th. That will end May 26th. Registration is March 18th. You'll have an email to come out for that. So just make sure you check your emails. In addition, I have a podcast that goes live every Sunday, similar format as this, at 11 a.m. I go live, but I also have it uploaded to Spotify, uploaded to my YouTube channel. It's called Wealthy Wellbeing. Feel free to subscribe to both of those. It's just foundational habits that will help cause small incremental changes, but will last forever and won't be super restrictive. We're not talking hardcore dieting or anything like that, but just that basic foundation, right? In that hierarchy, how can we be more mindful of what we are choosing to do, and how can we slowly make those changes and build those habits to become happier, healthier, and more fit. So please, if you think you can get any information from that, definitely follow, subscribe. If you think you know anybody else that might get some information from that, send it over to them. I just want to help anybody and anyone that I can, especially when it comes to health and fitness and nutrition. You can also feel free to DM me on Facebook, Instagram, anything like that. Again, I just want to help anyone and everyone. So I will be sending out a survey for those of you in the open to fill out. It'll close tomorrow night. So make sure you fill it out, get your points for your team. And otherwise, we will see what the workout is tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing everybody on Friday, cheering you all on and crushing it. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks.